I think 2026 is going to be a good year. I really do. I think it's going to be a year where we're just going to see slow, steady growth, where we're going to see some opportunity. Nothing crazy, but some opportunity out there for people who are diligent, who really pay attention. Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Excited to have you here. Hey, Merry Christmas to all. I know it was last week, but Merry Christmas to you. Hopefully you were able to spend some time with your friends, with your family, however you spend Christmas. For us, it's really important, obviously, to spend a lot of time with our family. So for us, family is really important. It's really important to take some time off and just to enjoy time together. It's also important for us to make sure we're going to church. We know what Christmas is all about, and we're spending the time with our faith and faith journey, and that being a big part of Christmas. We do the gifts, we do the Christmas tree, we do all that kind of stuff, but we make sure our kids know what Christmas is truly about, and Jesus and his birth, and honor that as well. So it's coming up on the new year. And so, man, New Year is just a couple days away. 2026, here we come. Whether you like it or not, it's coming. So 2025 hopefully was a great year for you. And for us, it was a pretty good year. It was a little slower. I would have liked to close on a few more properties, but overall it was still pretty good. We had now it's been a little while now, but we closed on 5 buildings in 13 months. And that was, our last closing was in October. So obviously now it's 5 buildings in 15 months, and we don't have anything under contract. So it's going to be a little bit longer, but hopefully we get something under contract here soon and we can have a good 2026. But for us, 2025 was a pretty good year, and we're looking forward to 2026 as well, and kind of what opportunities are to come. If you're in real estate like me, there's a lot of potential opportunities available, and what can we expect in 2026? Obviously, time will tell, and I made some predictions in 2025 and had some correct predictions, some incorrect predictions, but I think 2026 is a year where I expect interest rates to likely go down. I mean, President Trump is trying to push to get somebody new as the Fed chair, and that wants to drop interest rates, that expects to drop interest rates. So I expect that to happen. I don't know that we'll see interest rates drop again until that happens. Maybe, maybe not. What that does to us, I'm not 100% sure exactly how that plays out if interest rates do go down. It's interesting. What we've seen is the Fed fund rate actually has gone down, but interest rates have actually gone up. They've gone the opposite way. And so we'll see, what happens if interest rates or Fed fund rates continue to go down. My guess is the spread will continue to stay high, but that will start to chip down as well. With interest rates, if they do go down, I do think you're going to see an asset bubble start to form, and that's that sounds maybe worse than what it is. I don't think it's going to be this bubble that'll form and pop immediately, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's a true bubble, right? You blow up a balloon and it doesn't pop with the first 2 breaths, right? So it takes a while for that balloon to pop, and you got to keep on putting pressure on it in order for it to pop. So it may not ever pop if you do it right. So look, I mean, if interest rates do go down, I think Cap rates will begin to compress again. I think you'll see a lot of deals get done. There's two things that need to happen for deals to get done, in my opinion. You look, as a multifamily guy, I want deals. I want to purchase assets. I also want to make sure I'm purchasing them wisely too. And so you've got to look at things that your cash flow and your potential for future returns when you're looking at a deal. And one of the big things is your interest rate. If you're buying it with financing, interest rates play a big role. And so there's two things that need to happen, one of two that need to happen in order for us to be much more aggressive in buying. And that is, interest rates need to go down. That's one thing that could happen. Or prices need to go down. Or a combination of both would be fantastic, of course. But if prices, I quite frankly, I prefer that interest rates stay where they're at and that prices go down. That'd be my, favorite thing to happen. Of course, I can't force that to happen. It just, I think if interest rates started to tick back up or stayed steady, prices would go down. But especially as a seller, and look, we will sell buildings if it makes sense. But as a seller, you're going, well, I don't want to drop my price because interest rates are going to come down, which means people are going to pay more for my building. And you just kind of know that, right? So you're not in a hurry to sell right now because you see probably the same thing as I see, that interest rates are likely to go down. All right, so that's number one. Interest rates will go down. Prices will likely go up. I'm not going to predict that they're going to skyrocket. I think they will go up a little bit. Let's talk about rents. Rents have been very bifurcated within the U.S. And so we have the South and Southeast, a little bit in the Southwest, where we've had rent prices go down. And so rents have been negative for the last several years. I predicted in 2024 that 2025 would see negative rent growth for much of the Southeast. That's exactly what happened. I pat myself on the back for that one. And I think that'll continue to happen for a lot of these cities in the South and Southeast. It's funny because a lot of these groups that are buying it have been projecting rent growth ever since they've been buying. Call it 2023. We're going to see 3% rent growth. Okay, that didn't happen. They actually saw negative rent growth. 2024, we're going to see 3% rent growth. That didn't happen. They saw negative rent growth. 2025, hey, we're going to see 3% rent growth. That didn't happen. And I think 2026, they're going to see negative rent growth or very, very moderate rent growth for most of these cities. And they're going to predict, again, 3% rent growth. And of course, they're going to be off. Well, think about that. If you bought in 2023, you projected to your investors 3% rent growth. And now you've seen 23, 24, 25, you've seen 3 years of negative rents. And now in 26, you're going to see a fourth year of negative rents. Well, what happens with that 3 to 5 year hold? It doesn't look too attractive when we're seeing negative rent growth every single year. I just expect it. I expect the South and Southeast to have negative rents. I expect the U.S. as a whole to start off Q1 with negative rent growth. So with the first several months, I think we'll have negative rent growth throughout the U.S. As a whole. Now, that doesn't mean that everywhere in the country is going to see negative rent growth. That just means as a whole. I think in Q1, we'll see negative rent growth. I think Q2, we'll see potentially some positive rent growth just because of the seasonality and how rents go. But I think it's going to be fairly muted rent growth. I don't think it's going to be what we normally see in a summer leasing season. And I think Q3 will pick up a little bit more, but not a lot. And by Q4, again, I think we're going to see fairly flat rent growth. And that partially is due to the economy and due to what's going on, due to deliveries, and also partially with seasonality in what we typically see. So I think 2026, we're going to see mostly a flat rent growth overall throughout the country. Southeast, I expect negative rent growth, and the Northeast, the Midwest, I would expect to see kind of a mixed bag, depending on the city that you're in, but a mixed bag of rent growth. But I would project that it's going to be fairly slow rent growth, maybe a little bit slower than actually what we saw in 2025 in a lot of these markets. So I would expect that, look, I'm in the Twin Cities. We're in Columbus, Ohio. We're in Lexington and Louisville, Kentucky. I think those will see all those will see rent growth, but I don't expect to see quite as good of rent growth that we saw in 2024 and 2025 in those markets. Maybe closer to that, 2% type rent growth versus 3 and 4% rent growth that we saw. So a little bit of softening, but not a ton. And then I think, too hard to predict that much in the future. We'll see, but I think 2027 will continue to see a rebound, but slow and steady. There's a lot of people that expect this like hockey stick curve with rents just to all of a sudden skyrocket. I don't see that being the case. What's going to happen with inflation? Again, a little bit depends on interest rates and where those go and how hawkish people get and decide, hey, we're going to start spending again. But I think overall inflation will just kind of continue to stay around that 3% sticky inflation. We want to see it a little bit lower, but it's going to be around that 3%. We'll see what happens there. I was fairly accurate with that. I thought inflation would maybe go up a little bit, and it did kind of towards the end of the year here. But, I think I was fairly close to being accurate, right? Not too far off. And I kind of expect a little bit of the same here in 2026. Look, prices as far as real estate goes, multifamily wise, and let's talk single family too. So, first multifamily, in 2024, I projected through 2025 that, we would see price declines in a multifamily. I thought that we wouldn't get quite as aggressive as what we've gotten. It depends on the market you're in, certainly. So some markets have seen price declines. Other markets have seen price increases. So it's a bit of a bifurcated market. The Midwest and Northeast certainly have seen better price increases. And where the South and Southeast have seen some price declines still, but honestly, not what I would have expected. And so I would say I was off on that one quite a bit. I expected there'd be a little bit more distress in the market. I didn't think it was going to be a crazy amount of distress, but I did expect a little bit more distress in the market. And I thought that was going to play a factor too into decreasing prices. So a little bit off on that. Where I thought prices were going to be and where they're heading. So look, I'm going to say 2026. I mean, again, what happens with interest rates? Interest rates go down quite a bit. I could see prices going up, but if interest rates stay pretty flat, man, I can see prices going down. So this one's a really tough one for me to be able to project what's going to happen. I think an overall theme is it's still murky out there. It's still really hard to understand where rents are going, where the economy is going, where prices are going. I think that's easy to project, that we're going to have a murky market. We're not going to quite know what to expect, which uncertainty, man, that's a tough place to be in. So I think that, we'll see. If I'm a betting person, which I'm not, but I'm going to bet that we're going to see a little bit of price increases in the multifamily world. It's nothing crazy, but we're going to see a little bit of price increases. It hinges on two things. One is interest rates. Two is distress. Will we see more distress in 2026 than we saw in 2025? I think, again, I was wrong in 2025, but I think there's distress out there that we could see hit the market in 2026. How much distress? Are they willing to sell it for less? That's to be seen. But I do I do think there's going to be, look, there's a lot of loans coming due in 2026 and in 2027. There's a lot of loans coming due. All those 2022 purchases, those have been pushed off. Those are, you know, they have to get, something has to happen to those loans. So I do think in 2026, we're going to see some distress on the market, some forced sellers. Maybe you wouldn't call it distress, but some sellers that just have to sell. And that could lead to some deals to be had depending on the market you're in. Again, I think it's going to be market specific too. I think in the Midwest, you're pretty well insulated because it's a very attractive market right now in most of the Midwest, especially your larger metros. So I think that even if you do see some distress there, it'll get bought up pretty quickly, and it won't be for major discounts. Maybe you get a 5% discount or something like that. I do think in the South and Southeast you could see a little bit better type of deals there. But again, I still think there's a ton of money sitting on the sidelines that's ready to pounce the second they see something that looks like it could be distressed. They're going to buy it, and if they get a 5 or 10% discount, they're gonna go after it, and call that a discount or not. I guess I wouldn't. What's going to happen with the single family market? Again, a little bit on mortgage rates, but I just see the single family market just kind of being flat. I don't see a lot of up. I don't see a lot of down. I just think it's going to be a pretty flat market here over the next couple of years, quite frankly, as the economy just kind of putters along, as people are still uncertain, as interest rates are high. I just think it's going to putter along. If we see a big drop in interest rates, could you see a good uptick? Yeah, I definitely think you could, but really, the market's pretty unaffordable for most people. I just don't see a lot of transactions happening. Could that cause some distress? Yeah, I guess it could, but most owners aren't needing to sell, and so you just don't have a lot of sales that are being forced right now, and the few that are, there's enough buyers to gobble them up without seeing a ton of distress. So I don't think you are going to see a lot of, like somebody said we're in a real estate crash, and their definition of a crash was because we have a crash in inventory, we have a crash in deals getting done, and that's true. We don't have a crash in prices, but we do have a crash in the amount of real estate that's out there that's available for people to buy. It's not available. Like nobody has anything that they're selling, and nobody wants to buy. And so I think you've got this kind of just blah market happening, and that I expect to continue through at least much of 2026. Again, if interest rates really drop quickly, maybe you'll see some. I shouldn't say maybe, you will see some heightened buying that'll happen, and some sellers will come to market, but I don't think that's going to cause any stress in the market and much change. Prices I don't see skyrocketing or anything like that. So fairly stagnant market happening in the single family realm. As far as other commercial real estate, office, retail, industrial, all that kind of stuff, I think retail is going to be a fairly flat market. I think people are a little nervous about a recession happening, if a recession does happen in 2026. By the way, I'm not predicting a recession. I think we're just going to see a very similar economy just continue to push along here in 2026. That's happened in 2025. More of a I wouldn't call it stagnant, but just an uncertain economy, a little bit of up and some down and some sideways. And so I think that'll continue. And I think retail is going to just continue to kind of hobble along. I don't think it's going to be good or bad, but I think it'll just continue to be there. And you won't see a ton of transactions because people are just a little bit nervous. Office, look, you're going to see some distressed deals getting done. Those will continue from 2025 to 2026. You'll continue to see distressed deals. I think if you're really, really good at office and understand the market, I think it's a great opportunity. I wouldn't touch it because it's just not something I know. But if I had the right person that approached me that really knew office well, would I consider partnering with them and doing a JV deal? Yeah, potentially. So if you've got that out there, somebody that's really, really well versed in office and has done a lot of deals and has a good thesis and plan and knows what they're doing, would that be a good person to JV with or put some money with? Potentially. I think you got to be careful still with office. I don't think the distress prices have really played out like we thought they would. There's certainly plenty of distress in the market, but I thought we were going to see a lot of deals pennies on the dollar. But well-located office is still doing well. I listened to a podcast. They talked about well-located New York City A-class office. That stuff is full. It's doing well. And that's the case along most major metros. Well-located A-class office is doing well, but then your B and C class is really struggling, and that'll probably continue in 2026. Maybe that'll pick up, but I don't see it just going through that, that hockey stick growth. I think it'll be a very slow dig out of the office market if we ever do, come out of the funk completely. Industrial is attractive. Continue to look at industrial if that's what you're into, because it's still a very attractive play. And self-storage got beat up pretty good, got overbuilt, but in the right market, in the right place, I think, self-storage is a good one too. And I think what's really interesting, I've talked to a couple people, I've had them on my podcast, is doing more of like an industrial type self-storage. So where you're catering towards businesses, think construction businesses, businesses that need to store equipment and tools and things like that. So I think that's a great use for kind of more self-storage as well. All right, on to back to the economy, I should say. Tariff pressure, I think, is a thing that a lot of people are worried about. In 2024, going into 2025, I predicted that tariffs wouldn't have as big of an impact as most people thought, and that happened to be correct. I don't know why I was correct on that, honestly, because I didn't really understand that much about tariffs and why they wouldn't put a ton of pressure on the economy. But maybe that's why I got it right, is because it just didn't seem accurate. It just kind of more of a hunch than anything. But tariffs, they've had some pressure, certainly, potentially. It's really hard to completely tell how much pressure, but we haven't seen a big inflation spike. So you would have to say that tariffs really probably haven't had that much pressure on the overall economy. It's funny because this really smart guy on the internet, he's a Facebook poster, and he said something. He made this post on beef prices and proving that tariffs were causing major pressure on the economy. And he showed a graph of beef prices. What was funny about that graph, quite frankly, is that the beef prices started skyrocketing many years before Trump even took office. And they have actually slowed down the growth of the prices since the tariffs have been really, truly enacted. And now beef prices are steady and slowly going down. And so his whole thesis was that, look at beef prices, tariffs are ruining the price of beef. And quite frankly, we don't get that much beef from foreign countries. We do get some, but we don't get that much from foreign countries. So that thesis in and of itself was really silly. But I was thinking that, look, you might see some price increases, but there's going to be several people that have to eat those price increases before the consumer does. And that's really what happened, right? So you have the original manufacturer that has to eat some of it. You have the distributor that has to eat some of it. You have the shipping companies that have to eat some of it. It goes through this chain of people that have to eat a little bit of profit and to get it to the U.S. to be able to sell it, and then the consumer. And by the way, even the whoever's selling it, right? So you got all these people that are touching it that are eating a little bit of the cost, and then you finally have the consumer. And what is the consumer? Again, it's the supply and demand of things that determines price. And so just because something costs more to make, costs more to have here, doesn't mean you're going to be able to charge more. And it has to be something that people want to actually buy. So this fear of the iPhone going from, whatever, $700 to, I can't remember the exact prices, but it was like $3,000 you're going to be spending on an iPhone. Well, the consumer is going to say, no, thank you. We're not paying that amount, right? And that's exactly what happened, right? The consumer is not going to pay $3,000 for an iPhone. It just isn't going to work. And so that's why tariffs, I think, haven't really changed the economy all that much. It haven't really made inflation skyrocket. Now, again, it's early in the game. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe 2026 proves that I am wrong about the tariffs. And I'll admit it if I'm wrong, because, hey, that's just the way it is, right? I would love to hear the economists that said that tariffs were going to create skyrocketing inflation. I'd love to hear them say they were wrong. I think you'll see that most of them don't. But yeah, so I think, again, tariffs are, you're going to continue to see them. I think most of the tariff wars that we had are gone. I think Trump has worked his deals, and maybe you'll see some of that play out in 2026 where he tries to renegotiate or where he's, fighting against a country or whatever, a little temperamental sometimes. But yeah, I don't expect to see volatility there, and I just don't see that causing much riff in the economy as well. I think one of the concerning things right now to me is data with the U.S. government, and I've never really 100% trusted the data with the U.S. government, but we had the government shutdown, and the government put out the inflation data, and it was missing an entire month, and they did disclose it, but it was just weird, in how they calculated inflation, and it's kind of like masking the fact that it was really over an 11-month period of time, not a 12-month period of time, and so that definitely changed the rate of inflation, and it didn't give us a real picture, and so that's a concern. Again, the government's manipulated its data plenty of times, right? It's changed the goalposts plenty of times. It's dropped things from what it calculates and all kinds of stuff. But it's just a concern, something to keep an eye on. Is the government being honest? Is the Trump administration being honest? What's going on there? That's always a concern. Now, here's where I would say it's maybe a little less of a concern, is that we do have a lot of private company data as well. ADP with the jobs and so several. So we have a lot of private data to kind of confirm the government data, but you don't want to see that stuff being manipulated more than what it already has been. So I think that's really important that we don't see that. All right. Man, I think 2026 is going to be a good year. I really do. I think it's going to be a year where we're just going to see slow, steady growth, where we're going to see some opportunity. Nothing crazy, but some opportunity out there for people who are diligent, who really pay attention. So if you're a buyer, if you're a buyer of single family homes, it's going to be tough again. It really is. If you're a flipper, it's going to be a tough year. I do think that. But if you're a buyer of commercial real estate, whether it's single families, retail, office, industrial, self-storage, you name it, there's going to be opportunities out there for you to be able to get into. But by the way, I think the hottest market is, and it was kind of emerged through 2025 is assisted living, is senior housing, I should say, the whole senior housing industry. And you've got these baby boomers that are going to continue to hit the senior housing market. We own senior housing, and I think you see that the baby boomers are just really getting into the assisted living in memory care, and that's only going to continue. So assisted living, memory care, that's going to start to really look good. And then anything senior housing is going to be a positive. And you'll see this continue to play out for the next decade plus. I think senior housing overall is going to probably lead as far as returns go for all of commercial real estate in 2026, 2027, 2028, all the way through probably 2036, 2038. It's going to be the leader or one of the leaders throughout all those years. The biggest thing I would caution you of is we own assisted living. I know how it works. It's challenging. I actually don't consider it real estate. I know a lot of people do, and it gets lumped in the real estate business. Now after owning it, I don't consider it real estate. It's a totally different ball game to me. You have to know thoroughly how to operate it. And if you're going to just buy assisted living and do a triple net lease, well, then you're just buying a commercial piece of real estate, right? That's not assisted living. So if you're going to do it, you have to know how to operate it. And third-party management companies, that's a challenge too. I just wouldn't trust them. So I think you got to operate it yourself in-house, and that is a major, major challenge. It's, to me, again, it's totally different business. I don't think it's fair to lump it in with real estate. And maybe, by the way, it needs to be probably split into two different sectors. You're talking your kind of 62 plus, 55 plus, 62 plus independent living. Independent living can certainly be considered real estate. A little bit more hands-on, but not much. Where your assisted living, your memory care, your nursing facilities, those are not at all to real estate, but they will be lumped in real estate. And again, there will be the top performer of the real estate market in 2026 and beyond. And I think multifamily is going to see a nice uptick. And I think industrial will continue to be a great deal. So that's all I got for today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. And I'll talk to you in 2026. Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. Your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So the other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out, and we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.